What's going on, everybody? Just wanted to hop on and make a video. I wanted to talk about the Doge versus Bitcoin pairing chart. The reason why I want to talk about this chart is because it's at a very interesting level right now. A level that has, over the last, I guess we could say, over the last year, a little bit over a year, has provided major support for Dogecoin. And we've typically seen big bounces off this level. Now, obviously, we know that the overall altcoin market continues to just bleed back to Bitcoin, right? So, like, if we were to go over and just look at the others Bitcoin chart, let's just take a look at that real fast. Yeah, like others Bitcoin just continues to bleed back, potentially targeting some lower prices here. But really, the only real two altcoins, and I'm sure there's maybe a couple others that have performed well against Bitcoin, but there's not many. There's really not many at all. But Dogecoin's one of them that has. Obviously, ETH did come all the way back down, and we've talked about this a lot, to this major support level and is bouncing here, but over the last month or so, just kind of doing nothing. But the Doge chart is very interesting because, being at this level, it's really kind of a make or break thing for Dogecoin. And, I've always said, all these altcoins are going to eventually just bleed back to Bitcoin. You know what I mean? And they have, right? For the most part, these altcoins, over time, they bleed back to Bitcoin, right? I mean, almost 99% of them all eventually bleed back. And something that I continue to watch since the highs back in 2021 is just this lower high structure that Dogecoin continues to make with this flat bottom. It's kind of not the nicest, signal, right? It means that Dogecoin, over the course of the last, 4 years, has continued to make lower highs on its rallies against Bitcoin. Now, this is also kind of normal for this time in the cycle. We're getting to that point where it shouldn't be normal, but overall, over the last 4 years, you would expect Dogecoin to make lower highs against Bitcoin. And actually, if you look here, we've actually maybe potentially started to reverse that trend with making this final lower high and then now making a higher high. Over the last, 3-4 years, you had your bear market, and then you have your Bitcoin rally, and you've had a Bitcoin dominance rally that has just never stopped over the last 4 years. So in reality, if you were to compare Dogecoin to, I don't know, something like Litecoin, right, just bleeding all the way back, right, to Bitcoin. Uniswap, right, bleeding all the way back to Bitcoin. Crow, just bleeding back to Bitcoin. I don't know, AVAX, look at this, just bleeding all the way back to Bitcoin. Doge has surprisingly still held up much stronger than a lot of other altcoins. And what I'm really eyeing here is, one, this lower high structure and this flat bottom, but also now the fact that we did make a higher high from this lower high here. So really all eyes are on this level, right? This 0.156 all the way down to the 0.138 level, okay? Is it possible that we come down here? For sure. It's the 0.5 fib. It's major structured support, as you can see, right? I mean, many times, I guess even a little bit here. There's some support here too that's not popping up on the fibs, but doesn't have to. This is a major extension that I have here. But at the end of the day, there definitely is some major support here, and typically has presented extremely good buying opportunities for Dogecoin. So even down at these levels, right, there's big support, right? Big support for Doge. So if we look at some of the indicators, right, what are they really telling us? Well, 2-week market cipher, right? At the moment, continuing to make these higher lows on the momentum waves. So that's something we want to keep an eye on, okay? Another thing that you want to keep an eye on is the higher highs on the momentum wave, right? This is very important stuff, guys. Like, I don't know if you guys have this indicator or not, but great indicator in terms of just really everything. It's the most versatile indicator in all markets, if you ask me. But again, you see how you have this first V-shaped momentum wave, you head to the upside, right? You get your first high, you come back down, you make the higher low. Then you make the higher high, and now we're coming back down and potentially going to try and make that higher low. This will be crucial. This will go hand in hand with this pairing chart here, right? So I'm going to be watching Dogecoin extremely closely because from a risk reward perspective, this is an excellent opportunity for Dogecoin from a technical perspective purely. And then obviously watching this higher high, higher low structure on the momentum waves. And as you could see, right, money flow just continues to increase over the last year. Continues to slowly increase. Actually, my mistake. Since 2023, when the money flow bottomed out, we have done nothing but make higher lows along with these momentum waves, right? So you expect that. Momentum waves make higher lows. The momentum waves to the top side make higher highs, and money flow continues to get higher and higher. This is very important stuff, folks. This is something that is really, really grabbing my eye right now that I want to keep a really close eye on when it comes to Dogecoin. RSI also on the 2-week time frame has made higher lows. I wouldn't pay attention to this too much, whatever. I mean, overall, sure, we're making higher lows. That's good. Even if that were to break down a little bit, it wouldn't bother me too much, but I don't think this indicator is really telling us too much. Whale money flow. There we go. That's something that is very, very important here. So take a look at this for a second, guys. Let's just put this here, this here. Let's change that over to the yellow color that I like to use for this. Let's do that. So, and we'll change it over to a 3 spot. Perfect. All right. Whale money flow on Dogecoin versus Bitcoin is the lowest, is actually tied for the lowest it has ever been. So the last time the whale money flow was this low on Dogecoin was all the way back here. So this is not a good thing necessarily because it means that whales are not, piling into Dogecoin over Bitcoin, but it does again present that risk reward opportunity. Again, anytime that this whale money flow comes down into these lower sections, sure, does it need some time where it will continue to consolidate before whale money flow starts to rise? Yes. When whale money flow starts to rise is when you start to get your move. So we really want to see this reverse, but overall from a risk reward perspective, this is extremely low. This is in that, historical buy section basically, right? We've never broken down from this level before. So as far as this goes back, which is to about 2019. So not too much data, but enough to kind of say, okay, this level does have significance, right? The whale money flow has significance at this level. This major structured support on the pairing chart has major significance, right? And let's take a look at the 2-week stock RSI. This is almost bottomed out, okay? It's not quite bottomed out yet, right? But it's getting there. So maybe a move down to the 0.138. Maybe we just hang out right here. Again, it doesn't really matter. I don't think it's not that big of a drop, even if it did happen. But just this zone, right? And I'll even make it a little bigger, right? We'll even go down to this yellow. Just this overall zone, I think, is presenting a major opportunity for Dogecoin, right? And again, a lot of these altcoins have had this in the past. Look at AVAX, right? Bounced major from here, bounced major from here, bounced again major from here, but eventually broke down. I think this is a great kind of comparison. Like, does Dogecoin end up doing the same thing here? I'll tell you, if we were a year ago right now with the monetary policy we had then and the point in the cycle that we were at then, I'd say it's very possible. But I think that time and monetary policy is probably on Dogecoin's side to save it a little bit here. Like, for example, if let's say in the next few months we start getting, Fed Chair Waller came out this morning and said that there's a chance that they might cut rates in July. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, this is one of the top Fed chairs at the governor board there saying that we might cut rates in July. And usually he is, he's kind of dovish most of the time. But again, he's out there saying that. Now, again, monetary policy, QT ending, I think is more important. We want the rates to come down at the same time, but we want that balance sheet runoff to end. If we can line that up over the next 4 to 6 months, right, basically running until the end of the year, I think Dogecoin can hold these levels, maybe even come down here and create some type of Wyckoff structure. I don't know. I mean, it kind of doesn't make much sense after this big move higher, but kind of just speculating, like if you come down a little bit here and, fake people out to the downside and then bang, get that springboard up. Something like that could potentially happen. But again, I think post halving year, second half of the year, if you're a believer in the cycles, then altcoins should start to outperform Bitcoin, but we're going to need the monetary policy, right? And I think ETH is trying its hardest to show that beginning stages of outperformance. We've talked about that in detail, but it will start to trickle down to, maybe Dogecoin holds this level and bounces back, right? This is a must-hold area. We need to hold this area for Dogecoin in order to maintain this, honestly, beautiful structure over the last 10 years. I mean, look at this, 10 years just... You finally break out, you're coming back and retesting all these highs. These highs lasted all the way from 2014, and it finally broke out in 2021. 7 years of resistance. You break out of it, you're coming down, and you've been retesting it over the last few years, and we're entering into that stage in the cycle where typically, right, monetary policy should be easing, and seasonality, should technically help. ETH is kind of trying to break out, right? There's some signals there popping up that certain altcoins are, especially ETH, are trying to show their strength. So it's kind of funny how at that exact moment, Dogecoin's retesting this for the last time potentially before, gets that springboard higher. That's if you're bullish on the market. Whale money flow down in that bottom section for maybe the last time. This, more importantly than anything, higher lows on the momentum wave, higher highs on the momentum wave, money flow gradually increasing. This is the most important thing that I can find in terms of indicators. Along with that, stock RSI and whale money flow are also important. Okay, now if we look at Dogecoin really quick on the the USD chart, right? You guys know the deal. I mean, this is not really a secret for any altcoin, right? I mean, Dogecoin is just, it kind of just chopping around, even though these are big swings from 14 cents up to 26 cents, and now we're coming back down. It's one of those things, right? We're in the summer. Bitcoin saw that correction. Bitcoin dominance is high. Altcoins are bleeding. But at the end of the day, we're still making higher lows, right? And that's important. And I'll tell you what, you want to just keep it simple as possible. Anything above this wick, anything above that 13-cent level on, weekly closes, 3-day closes, 2-week closes, monthly closes, everything's fine. If Dogecoin were to come down to this 13 cents level and start to, make a lower low, and now we have this lower high structure, then it's simple, right? It's changing, right? The whole market structure is changing. For now, that's not the case, even though it's getting a little close, right? We're getting a little scary here. We're getting white knuckles. It's not the case right now. This is bullish price structure overall, okay? Now, obviously, you're going to need to come back up and break this 26 cents level, this 28 cents level to make a higher high here. And then overall, you're going to want to break that 49-cent level to really confirm we're going into a strong bull phase. But overall, from just a structural perspective, this is a little sketchy looking at the moment, but it's not at the same time, right? You have higher lows, and we'll stick with that for now, right? As long as Dogecoin is above this orange circle, I see no reason to be uber bearish. And again, as long as Bitcoin is in a certain range also, because remember, Bitcoin's going to be the big driver, right? We always talk about don't get too soaked up in looking at individual altcoins. As long as Bitcoin is looking, the way it looks, which I know it seems bad, but on higher time frames, it's not that bad. We should be fine, and Dogecoin should be able to hold these levels, head higher. The Dogecoin pairing chart should also be able to hold this major support level and head higher eventually, right? So, it's a risk-reward game at the end of the day, guys. That's what we play the game for. It's not, you're never going to be dead on right about everything, but it's risk-reward. That's all it is. You know what I mean? Like, if you weren't in the market at all and Dogecoin was down at that major support level at 14 cents and the pairing chart was down here, you give it a go. You know what I mean? And then obviously you use Bitcoin and USDT dominance as a real teller to help your entry. You give it a go, right? Now, obviously, I know we're all in Dogecoin already, so we're kind of analyzing it from the point of view of what's going to happen with our active current bags. Do I hold Dogecoin from a much lower price personally? Of course, but I have a big swing trade open on Dogecoin too on another exchange that I monitor. So we were able to enter in around 15 cents and rode that up and made some nice profits. But again, it's just one of those things where Dogecoin on the USD chart is just kind of chopping around. Need to stay above that 13 cents level. Preferably, we don't want to go back there, but want to hold above that. And then the parent chart is obviously, retesting these 7 years worth of support over and over and over again. And we want to hold that, right? If Dogecoin were to come down here and start breaking down from these levels, it would start to be like, wow, I don't think at the whole point, I think we would know very much the whole market is not looking too good at that point. And it'd be pretty likely that, either Bitcoin is just outperforming everything on a scale never seen before, or, the whole market is falling apart. So again, that's not what this is saying. This is saying that we're making higher lows and higher highs on the momentum waves and the money flow. This is saying that we're at major structured support. We're at historical levels on the whale money flow. We're at historical levels on the 2-week stock RSI, and that we should just play it as it is at the moment. And if something else happens, then we'll alter our view. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it was informative for you. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and you guys have a great day. Peace.